This is how to put together and set up an Edelkrone motion system for video work. It'll include the tripod, the slider mechanism with the motor control, and 2 HeadOne units, one for the tilt and one for the pan, and the basics of how to set up the phone app for it as well. These are the 2 boxes with all the parts that came with my Edelkrone kit. This is the list of parts: shutter release cable, AC adapter, batteries, battery bracket, battery dummy pack, batteries with charger, the slide, V5 long, tilt kit, and HeadOne. The next thing I'm going to open up is the tripod. This is the base for everything, so I figure it makes more sense to pull that out first and then see how everything mounts to it. There's a Velcro strap for holding it nice and steady in your case. And much like the remote, this feels really solid and stable. So it can be as short as this. You can see they have the lock and unlock items here. So if I pull that out, it does get pretty tall. In fact, the stand here says max height of 58 inches. And from the top you can see that this tripod has a little bubble level here. I thought this thing was missing. Turns out it was in the brown box at the bottom of that big box, and I just couldn't see it at the bottom. This is why you never throw the boxes and packaging away until you know you have all the pieces. The other thing I found was that this little kit was located in the pouch inside the tripod case. The bottom of it unscrews from the top part of the base. Then you just drop that through. There. Then this piece comes off the top, and that's where you'll mount your sliding mechanism. Here's everything unboxed. I'm going to start with things like the battery power and stuff because those will be the simple ones. All the little items are now out of their boxes and assembled where necessary, such as for the AC adapter. I've already put the US plug adapter on it as opposed to one of the other regions. I've now unboxed the big ones as well and put their manual next to them. So this is the Sliderplus V5. I think that's an extra belt and screws for it. This device is the Slider Module V3 that I guess works with that. Got a cord and a couple of screws there. I've got 2 HeadOnes, and then this is the Tilt Kit V2. The cleaning kits are inside the black envelope for the slider mechanism. The first thing you want to do is remove these black bars. They are just there for spacing. I'm just using a razor blade, and I'm going to cut very carefully to be up by the black bar. I don't want to accidentally scuff or scar the slide here because that could cause issues in smooth operation later. So cut by the bar, it's in the throwaway. These are currently locked. To unlock them, push that little button in, and then you can see they go back and forth, right? Lock it again. These are the fabric belts or material, and they're only for manual sliding. So if you have the slider with no motorized controller, you would just use it as is. However, since we have a motorized controller for this setup, I'm going to have to use the rubber corrugated belt or whatever you want to call it with the little notches or teeth on it, and those teeth interface with the pulley on the motor controller to let you actually move the device. So the next step is to replace the fabric belts with the rubber belts. And to do that, and all you have to do is pull them out. They feel like they're magnetic probably. So you just pull that out, and this one as well. Now when you get to the end here, you actually have to move the wheel out by just pushing from the inside, and then you can pull this piece out. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And then it's free. This side's a little harder. You have to hold it so that it's flush. If you don't, it gets at a bad angle, but it's just magnetic again. But you can't just pull on this or it'll rub against there. You have to pull it flat out like that. So there's the fabric belts gone. And now we'll put our corrugated ones out. For these rubber ones, you want the teeth facing outward, okay? Not inside, but outward. So you're gonna do the same thing we just did. You're gonna put one in each of these. As a check, that little screw would be down inside, facing that way, and that keeps your teeth on the outside. Then you put it across the little roller, okay? And then we're going to insert it back through this hole. Now before you attach it, we have to put our roller back in there. So take the roller, center the belt on it, and then pop it back into place. Basically press back into there. Same thing on the other side. The belt through it, roller, press it back in. Now this is a little bit tighter. There we go. You can put it back to the center and lock it again. Do a quick check. You've got your roller pulley here and there. You've got both ends here and both ends here all secure. And the teeth on the belts are facing outward. Now these belts feel pretty snug to me. Now the book doesn't really say it, but in general on a belt, over the years I've learned that if you can turn it about 90 degrees and that's about the extent of it, then that's about tight enough. So just as a rough order of magnitude estimate, I would say these belts are good. But if you do need to tighten them, the 2 screws here and here, so there's 4 screws total, they can be adjusted to increase belt tension. And what they're doing is it looks like they're pulling that pulley outward, which increases the path and puts more tension on it. So you can use those 4 screws if you need to adjust the belt tension. If you want to use the slider just as is on its base, you can flip it first of all this way, but you can loosen each of these and that brings the legs down. And they're set on, I believe, a 15-degree increments. And then you can tighten those. Let's say I wanted to go with the highest position possible. Again, you loosen this, turn it out to whatever you want. And the main thing to do is to make sure that when you're in contact with the surface that all 4 legs are touching. You want this thing to be solid and stable so that when your camera's moving back and forth, it's not teetering or anything like that. So that's what it would look like if you want to just use it on the base. Remember, if you just have it sitting on the ground like this, that's fine, but you're only going to get this much motion, which is like 1.5 feet or so. However, if you put it on a tripod, then you get all the way from here all the way over there. So if you need a lot of linear motion, you're better to put it on a tripod. If you only need that 1.5 feet or so, and especially if you're doing low shots, then you may want to leave it just on its feet. Since I'll be putting mine on a tripod, I will roll these guys back up. After removing the rubber cap off the top of the tripod, we can now assemble our base to it. So you'll see down here, the base has a hole in it on the bottom of the slider. Looks a little bit different than the top, right? So take that little screw hole there, and that's going to go on top of the tripod. Do not cross thread it or you're going to have big problems. All right, don't need to over torque it, but just get it on there solid. Now we have our slider on top of the tripod, and we can manually move this. And you can see you've got quite a bit of travel up here. Put it back there. With the device facing upward, the book shows this to go with the tabs up, and as it says, do not over tighten the screws. So that's going to go on the back here. There's your 2 screw holes, and then you're going to use the 2 screws that came with the kit here and here, and you're going to use the little hex key that was in the same white bag as the screws. One thing to note, it seems like that bottom screw is not going in as deep as the top one. Don't quite know why, but I don't want to over tighten them. They just have to hang on here so they don't fall off. Okay, and it's very easy because they're small screws to overdo it and break them, so you don't want to do that. And then you'll take the power cord Go to DC in, and that's plugged in there. Once the battery pack is in place and the DC in cord is connected, now what we're going to do is engage that drive pulley with the belts on the end, and we're going to use these 2 screws that came with the device to mount here and here into the top of this slide. The manual says that you want to attach it to the side that says incline, right there. All right, I have the screws started on the incline side. I've got the device. I'm going to engage the drive belt with that pulley, and I'm going to hold it up against it with my stomach basically to try to get this thing on there nice and tight. You should be able to look down and see those thumb screws centered perfectly in their cutouts. If the device is way out here and it's barely hanging on, that's not good enough. That's why I was pushing from this end inward with my stomach. So for this one, it's easy enough to use it manually. If it were too tight and you couldn't freely move it, then you can adjust that pulley in here, or if it's too loose, then it'll slip on the belt, and you don't want that either. So you have to get it just right. I'm going to start with how it is. But to adjust it, you basically come to the back of it here, and you pull that wrench out. And like everything on this, I like how they use magnets everywhere to keep things simple. And then you just go in here and turn that screw to adjust tighter or looser. When you're done, don't forget to put your wrench back in. The next step is to mount one of the HeadOne units to the top of the slider. So you can take a screwdriver, a coin, or your thumbnail, simply push down, back it off till it comes up. Now you can mount your HeadOne unit to this. And you can see that the HeadOne unit has a reducer in there, so I'll have to remove that first to accommodate that bigger screw. Okay. Pull that out, set that aside. Now it does say make sure battery is attached while tightening or loosening. I don't know why, but okay. Alright, I've attached the battery as it says. I'm just going to swivel it on. Basically happy. None of this has to be super tight. It's not going to be vibrating a lot. The battery in the other one while I'm thinking of it. The next thing we'll need to assemble is this tilt device, this piece, and then it'll have its other rotation motor for tilt. First I unscrew this knob to pull this assembly off the base piece. Now I need to take this piece, and it's going to go on the end with those 3 holes, lining up with those 3 holes, assembled with those 3 screws. And you want the Edelkrone name facing outward, and the knob here is on top. And you can also see there's a slight chamfer, so you're screwing it up on the top of here. Okay, that goes there, and that means your top points will look like this. And the wrench is conveniently right here on the bottom, again held with magnets like all the components on this device. And again, these are small fasteners, so there's no need to crank them, just kind of a hand tight, snug. There we go, and kind of do them all even across the 3 as you go. Put the wrench back. Now, since I actually need to mount this video camera I've been using to the device, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of a change to my still camera in movie mode, which may not be as high a resolution. The first step was getting this piece on the camera. Now, as you can tell, this piece couldn't go the other way because I've got this flip out screen, right? So if you had this over here, it would interfere with the screen. Now you basically put it on the bottom, and you can see you've got this really wide slot. That thumb knob goes inside the threaded hole in the bottom of the camera, like they all do. And you may ask yourself, well, how do I know where to adjust it in there? Well, the key is balance. You want minimum load on these motors. So what you do is you hold it up with the finger in the center, like that, and you kind of try to get to where it's balanced. You can see it hangs pretty level, if it were really off one way or the other, either this side would really fall or that one would. But this seems pretty good where it is. So that's the first check. Then the second check is going to be the horizontal one. So you can see if I hold it way over here, it's hanging crossways, right? If I hang it over, if I move the knob all the way to the inside, then it hangs lopsided the other way. So you want to find a place that looks like, you know, pretty close to right in the middle will probably be where it's happy. Now, since I have that set, and that's all tight and happy, and I made sure to have the brackets straight with the camera, and I know that this is going to be about happiest right in the middle, and then this goes into the actual motor controller. So I'm going to take that in the middle, and I'm going to put it in that hole, and again, it says for whatever reason, make sure the battery is attached while tightening or loosing, so I did. Want that in that center of the slot, and then tighten it down. It's a little awkward at that angle, but good and tight so it doesn't slip. Okay, there. Now we have that assembly all together. Here's the last piece, and it basically joins the top mount here to those two holes in the motor, and the bottom end goes on top of the slider base. It's just another thumb screw, and you can see it's got the screw and an alignment, and this has the screw hole in the alignment. So they go like that. And you got those lined up. That's all good and tight. And you can see it's flush here, which means I got the alignments in where they need to be as well. And just like last time, this has a little screw in it that you just basically rotate till it pops up. And then this little guy sits on top of it. Now remember, you have a bubble level on the tripod itself, and once you've attached all these things, you also have that green bubble level down there, right down there, so that you can make sure, because really that's what matters. That's the part that's connected to your actual camera, but it gives you a couple different tools to help make sure you're keeping everything level and straight. Since I know I'm going to be taking my camera off this device once in a while, I don't want to have to go through all the balancing act again, so what I've done is just taken a little paint pen and marked around that knob so that when I take it off and put it back on, I can easily get it back in the same place. That should be everything I need for assembly-wise. Now what I'm going to do is take all the batteries off everything and put those on the charger, because the next step will be actually operating it and using the app or the controller. You plug the batteries in, light turns red. When the light's green, they're ready to go. And this is the Edelkrone controller V2. Now, you can use your phone, is my understanding with this, but they said that this gets a little bit better range and, you know, is more just made for the system. So I did pick this up. Looks like it takes 2 AA batteries. Just putting the batteries on already made the screen come to life. I'm actually going to take one of the batteries out because I don't really want this thing to be confused. It's probably smarter to just leave it off for now. This feels like a metal case. It's very solid and durable compared to most kind of lighter weight, cheap plastic ones. And you want to make sure you put the lid on this way. If you put it on this way, you can't get underneath where it says pull. You have to do it this way to be able to get underneath there. Now that the batteries are all charged, I'll insert them. These two go over here. So for the slider, you not only have to put the batteries in, but you have to also turn the power on. Then each of the HeadOne units slides in place there, and this one up here. Now I've loaded the app, and I've got manual, smart, vision module, I don't know what that is, but smart pairing works if you only have one of each type of device. Since I have 2 of the HeadOne units, I'll have to go with manual pairing. Now I have all 3 devices, so I'm going to select all 3, and I'm going to say pair and connect. So now I've got my tilt and my pan and my slide. Now I want to release my slide. Okay, let's try to take and move the slide. And there it goes. And then if I pull it back the other way, it goes back the other way. If I take my pan tilt button, I can rotate it down, I can rotate it up. Well, depends on which angle you've got. I don't know if there's a way to change those. I'll have to look into that. Rotates that way, rotates this way. So I'll make it straight. Now I want to have one on the center. That's about dead nuts, centered along the slide, level this way, and straight on this way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that to pose 1. I'm going to calibrate them. What's that mean? It says lock that. It says from the camera, you want to choose left or right, and this would be looking through it. So on looking through it, it would be on the left. And tilt, I want to say that's 0. Okay, so now I've calibrated and I've told them I want 0, 0, 0. So now I want that to be, whoa. Basically in calibrating it, it went to where it thinks 0 should be. So what I have to do is move that thing and make it straight across, because you can see now the camera went to pointing 90 degrees out this way. If it thinks it's at 0, 0, 0 right now, I know the slider's right, but I have to make sure that the other two are correct to 0. So I'm going to loosen this piece here. Now it still says calibrated 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to save that. What happens if I push that picture? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of the setup all centered where I want it. And then it shows up right there. And now I can put other poses in there. So let's say that I wanted to do that. What if I put the slide, make sure to take that off. Let's go all the way down. And you can hear it's smooth and quiet as hell. Went all the way to the end. And I'm going to make the camera pan. Okay, so see how the camera is aiming away at the farthest point. I'm going to put that as pose 2. Save. And now what I'm going to do is move it all the way back to the other side. And now I'll just go a little bit closer, but not all the way because I don't want to hit those screws. I wonder how much I can push it. Let's try that. Okay. Let's put that for a third pose. Okay, now we have the different positions, and now what I'm going to do is set motion from 1 to 3. So I'm going to use the sequencer. I'm going to say from 1 to 2 to 3, that's fine. So let's go back to the beginning. You can see it moving back. So it went to home. Oh, because 1's the middle. Okay, that's fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit play. And it's going to go to position 2. So it started at 1 because that was our first position. Now it's going all the way to position 2. And then from there, should go back all the way to position 3. And you can adjust your speed along this path. You can adjust the acceleration. You know, if you want smoother transitions in between positions. But you can see how smooth and hear how quiet it is. It's just a really solid piece of equipment. I'm very impressed with this. Okay, and that's where it went. And then you can turn the loop on and off if you just want to go back and forth. Might want to do that during a video just to get some different motion footage. Frankly, I never even used the controller that came from Edelkrone. The app is everything I need. It's a nice graphic visual interface, and it seems to give me all the controls. I don't know how you would do some of the things on the controller that you can do on the app, so I will probably throw that back in the box for now and just focus on the app until I see a reason otherwise. Now that you're up and running and functional with your new Edelkrone system, your creativity can take you wherever you want it to with your videos.
Subscribe to my YouTube channel below and let's celebrate turning fuel and air into adrenaline.